Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I am so glad to be here. And my promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and maybe help your social media marketing and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everybody's talking about? I know I do. And I'm so stoked to have Annie Delre with me. Welcome, Annie.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this warm welcome.
I want to start off really learning more about you. So could you tell my audience out there a little bit about what you do and who you serve?
Sure. So I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. I work with people on their mind and body, but I would say more of a focus on their mental health. I graduated with my master's in integrative wellness coaching in 2020. And if you remember, 2020 March was when COVID, I don't want to say was a thing, but more people knew about it, I guess I would say. And I graduated that May. So I graduated into the pandemic.
Wow.
But
great for business,
timing.
Great for starting a business.
I was just, everyone I met, I was like, oh, actually, I just studied this for the last 3 years. So yeah, I can help you with this.
You're just a baby in all this right now.
That's how I feel. I've my master's is in psychology. I graduated in 2015 with that. So I've been studying the human mind for a bit now, but coaching specifically, specializing in coaching, understanding the difference between therapy and coaching. I've done a lot of public speaking. I've taught other coaches how to be coaches. So this is my passion. This is what I love to do.
What made you, it's funny because, a lot of people who major in psychology end up working in a, hospital milieu, or they will, work in maybe drug and detox, or they'll go into social work, or, there's all different areas. But what made you shift into the whole coaching as opposed to therapy?
Yeah. So what happened is I learned the difference, I guess. I gained clarity, and I'll just explain the difference, right? So a lot of people are more familiar with therapy. So I always start explaining what therapy is. So therapy is coping with the present, spending time in the past so you can process, so you can heal, so you can start being successful in the present. While coaching is we talk about the present, all we care about is the future. That is all we care about. So I let clients know first thing, if you get into a 2-minute story about your past, I will gently stop you and say, I appreciate this background. What did you learn from it? Because truly that's all that matters. We're not going backwards. This coaching is forward movement only. And when I learned that, I was like, that's who I want to work with. Okay.
I love that. Recently, there's so many people that I've talked to over the years that will, that have gone to therapy, and then they come out of that, maybe 1 or 2 sessions, and it seems like instead of taking personal responsibility, they, it's my parents' fault. Everything of who I am is my parents' fault. And to be honest with you, I hear it all the time.
All the time.
It's not just, the millennials or the baby boomers or the Gen Zs or the Gen Xs. It's like, I am this way. Well, I had no choice. It's because my parents. Yeah. So I love that. I love the approach. I work with a coach, and she does the same thing. When if I bring up the past, she just like, okay, she's really good at that. And I love that accountability. Mm-hmm. So learning the difference between therapy and coaching, so catapulted you into this whole career of coaching. And so I'm going to ask this question, and it's, there's thousands of coaches out there. I mean, thousands. Yeah. So what would you say separates you from most of the coaches? Not all of them, because everybody has their everybody's unique in their own.
I would say my education. Well, also in my experience. So I've worked with maybe 500 clients, between 5 to 600 clients. So being experienced and also having the education to back it up. I believe I have 7 certifications as well. Um, and and being nationally board certified. So taking a test similar to the GRE, that's 4.5 hours, like 150 questions. You have to do a lot of work for this test. As opposed to a coach who woke up one day, looks great in yoga pants and says, I'm a health coach, or read 5 self-help books and is like, oh, I'm a mindset coach, because there is no licensure. So anyone at any time can call themselves this. They could take a 2-hour coaching class that's a free coaching class and say, I'm a coach. So yeah, I would say
you see that a lot on LinkedIn too, is people like will say they're these experts, but then if you look down on their profile, you don't see any, well, how are you an expert? It doesn't say you had any, experience in any of this. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So you work with a lot of people. I mean, 500 clients is a lot. And I mean, so it's in everybody, we live in a culture today that is, oh my gosh, the stress is unbelievable. It's like, it's crazy. It's when you ask somebody how they're doing, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so tired, I'm so stressed. And then you look at their life and you wonder, like, why are you so stressed? So let's talk a little bit about, stress, because I personally feel that stress is really related to how you are and how your health of your person, your mind, your body, your spirit. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about how you would help somebody manage their level of stress.
So first I would teach, I guess it is to teach mindset, number one. So for example, teaching someone the idea of work-life balance. That is a very common phrase. If you Google that, hundreds of thousands probably of resources will come up. So shifting mindset for something such as a word like that, instead of using the word balance, using harmony. We are stressed the heck out because we are looking for 50-50 work life. But at the end of the day, do you want to spend 50% of your time working? Do you want 50% with your family? And with these hundreds of clients, I could think of 1 or 2 who said they wanted 50-50. And these were people with no friends or family and were perfectly fine concentrating on let's say like the corporate ladder. So everyone else, especially parents that I work with, are like, Annie, are you kidding me? And I said, I'm not telling you you want that. What I'm saying is this is what we're programmed to think. Work-life balance, work-life balance. Balance means the same. And that's not what we're really looking for. So change that mindset so you can already relieve that stress. Number one, just relieve that stress. And I believe that helps a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest problem, is everybody is on this hamster wheel and they don't know how to get off of it. And it's really funny because, I've always tried to stay off the hamster wheel, but every once in a while I decide to go for a little ride on it, and it wreaks havoc in my health and in my life. And what I've learned a lot lately, and I'm sure you'd probably agree with this, is I'm very nocturnal. So I was always a late night person. And, more recently I decided the only goal I was going to have this year, because I always do these huge goals.
Of course.
Half of them, and so, I mean, ridiculous goals, like the ones that, I'm going to make $1 billion in 1 month, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I could dream though, but,
of course.
What I realized is I just wanted one goal this year. And it was a health goal. I just want to get more sleep. And I have been such a little Energizer bunny because I get 4 hours of sleep. Now I'm getting like 6 to 7 hours. I realized, how they say you should get 8 hours of sleep? Well, I tried to do that 8 hours of sleep thing, but it didn't work in my schedule. But I can promise, what I found is I started slow. I started getting 5 hours of sleep, which was amazing. Now I'm anywhere from 6 hours to a little bit over 7.5 hours. And literally I feel better if I'm getting that amount of sleep, and my stress is down because of it. So there's all these, stress. Everybody talks about, stress management. And, I have this like little Apple Watch. I love, it tells me when I'm stressed. Yeah. It does. Yeah. Like when I'm in a deadline, it's like all of a sudden my heart rate goes up and
they're like,
it's
ding, ding,
crazy. Ding. So you mentioned something interesting. You talked about mindset. And, what I discovered is that I used to think mindset, was not a huge thing, but it really is. And if you focus, on the glass half empty instead of the glass half full, everybody's heard that before. It is so true. You are going to like almost manifest a little bit about, like if you're always like, oh, like if I'm sick or if I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. And it's all, oh, I'll never be that, or I'll never get to do that, or I'm not enough, or whatever that is, you realize that that's almost what you become because that's all you're focusing on. But, if you focus a little bit on what could be or what the truth really is instead of all those distortions that you've put. So tell me a little bit like what you discovered with mindset, some things that are really important to your mindset.
So I guess one thing is gently calling people out. So for example, I may say, listen, if you're looking at the darkness, I promise you will find it everywhere. You will find it everywhere. Open social media, open the news. If you look for light, you will also find it. It may be more difficult, especially in the beginning, but the light is out there. Where are you putting your attention? As simple as that. And then I'll say a quote such as, it takes just as much energy to have faith than fear. So what are you concentrating on? Do you have faith in yourself, or are you going to just ruminate and have this fear? I believe you use the word distortion. And that's a great word. You are distorting these things in your brain. You are ruminating on these negative events. And I think everyone can relate to that. Like for example, sleep. You're laying there. You remember something you did in high school. You said something not nice, and immediately shame washes over. And anger at yourself. Or you remember someone who did something wrong to you, and you're like cursing them right before bed. Like, is this serving you? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no, this is not serving you, as opposed to falling asleep to a gratitude list in your head. That's a big difference of where you are in your mindset before resting yourself. Resting, I guess.
Yeah, interesting. I was just thinking about this is like, the little things that, we beat ourselves up for, are the things that cause stress. And I remember something that I did, and it wasn't even a bad thing, but it happened in high school. And, when you get, okay, so every high school is different. And I understand that. Mine is that, boy, were we mean to the freshmen. And the reason we were mean to the freshmen, and we didn't do anything really bad, but we'd send them late for class because we'd send them to the wrong floor and the wrong house. And at that point, they were just learning the houses. And it was just really mean. But I remember being a junior, and you know how, like for me, I like to take some fun courses. So I took an art course, and literally I was so mean to this kid. And later on in life, I used to play adult softball, and he was the umpire.
Oh, no.
No, but you know what? I still feel bad. I felt bad about it. So I still sometimes feel bad because I treated him so mean, like he was just a freshman. And I actually apologized for it. And it was really healing. And sometimes you're not going to be able to apologize to somebody, or sometimes they're not going to forgive you, but that's okay, because, forgiveness, if you're not able to forgive someone, it's on you anyways, because, you're just harboring something that they probably don't even know that they did to you. So the bottom line is, I really feel that it's important to, I know it just helps with the whole stress thing. It helps with the whole mindset thing. And just, we tend to, I was talking to somebody earlier today that talked about, celebrating. She has a day that she celebrates all her accomplishments from the week before. And I'm like, I have a lot of accomplishments. I've done a lot during the week, and, so sometimes I don't celebrate as much as I need to. And let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that helps with stress too, is it celebrations? What do you think about celebrations?
Yeah, actually, one of the things I teach is confidence. And there's three techniques that I teach for like immediate confidence building. And one of those is making note of all your achievements. These are achievements big and small. It could be you did get your master's, you did get your bachelor's, you got a certification. It also can be that you looked up from your phone at Starbucks and smiled at someone when normally you would never make eye contact, let alone smile. You made small chit chat in the line at the grocery store when you would usually, again, never look up. That's an achievement to you. That's huge. Let's make note of it.
I love the fact that you work on confidence, because I also think that that's, that plays along with the whole mindset thing and the confidence.
Yeah.
And I remember before I started my coaching journey, and I'm not a coach anymore, but I feel like I'm always coaching clients and stuff like that. But because the thing is what I realize, it's not their service that is off, it's their mindset. But like, I find that I remember when I first started the journey of being a business owner, and I wanted to help people come from a place of service. And I remember going to my first BNI meeting, and there were all these people in suits, and they were dressed way better than I was, let's just put it that way. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt like at that moment, I remember feeling like, and I know this happens especially in a lot of women, that I didn't feel it like I was enough at that time. I wasn't good enough to be in that room. And I remember that I go back to that story all the time, because where I've come from, and then I realized that one day I just realized I am good enough. I'm here, I'm doing the do. I am, good enough. But it took a long, I had a journey with that, just feeling like I was, not enough, and realizing that I think it's really important to have somebody on your side that's going to help you build that confidence that, what's the worst thing that can happen, when you walk into a room?
Right.
You must have come across somebody who's like petrified of public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was one of those people who was really afraid of talking in public. He was a brilliant man, but he was just very introverted and very afraid of talking in public. In fact, I believe, I'm not sure of the grade. He either got a D or a C in public. When you had that communications course your freshman year in college, everybody had it. The one that you dreaded.
Yes.
And I actually I had fun in it, but I can see where people, it's all because they don't have a lot of confidence.
That's exactly it. Mm-hmm.
And that can add to your stress too, because if you're not confident about what you're doing or who you are as a person, and I think that's the most important thing, don't you think it's really important that, you really know who you are, and you don't deviate from that integrity that you have, of who you are as a person? Would you agree with that? I mean, is it something that, it's like, I always tell people just to be themselves. I've always told my kids just to be themselves. And that's scary too, because then they do become who
are themselves. Yeah.
It's like, right. Really? That is not what I intended that to be for.
This is like the only advice you've ever taken from me. Oh my gosh, what the heck? You're right. I totally agree. It's back to that idea of having confidence in yourself. But if we were to take that a step further, is loving yourself and loving yourself first. A quote that I made up, I'm so proud of myself, but it's, you are the only person that goes to bed with you every single night and wakes up with you every single morning. You did have your parents, you may have a significant other, maybe you had a roommate. They have not gone to bed and woken up with you every single day of your life, and will continue to every day. So you have to love yourself. No wonder you're so unhappy. You don't like being alone. You don't like sitting in silence. You don't do things alone. You always have to be busy with other people. You're always looking for external validation. That's exhausting. That is exhausting. That is stressful.
Yeah. You mentioned something just kind of triggered me here a little bit, is you mentioned happy. And a lot of people will say, I've seen it written on Facebook, like somebody being point blank honest, I'm not happy. I'm sad. I'm happy. And I hear that a lot, that, what would you do? How would you help somebody become happy? Because I think too, like joy and happiness, a lot of things in our life are a choice. I don't think, if a teacher gave me a sad face, I remember this in kindergarten, I used to get sad faces all the time in kindergarten, for Pete's sakes, and so I remember, like, that didn't make me happy. And I knew it wasn't going to make my parents happy, even at that young age. But I always realized that, I just always played a game with myself. It's like, well, what am I going to do that's going to make me happy? Or, how am I going to be joyful? Or how am I going to show joy? And a lot of times it would come out in, like, my sense of humor, or my jokes, or my, it's like real. Sometimes it comes off across snarky too, but it's
a little sassy.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like that. I hear that all the time. Everybody, is just blaming, the world on their unhappiness, or blaming this on their unhappiness, when really I'm the only one that can make myself happy.
That's a big lesson. And this is life in general of, let's focus on what you can control and what you can't control. You can't control what your kids do. You can't control how your boss talks to you. You can't control what happens in that meeting that you're not leading, but you can control your reaction. So you are so right. That's sometimes what someone will come. This is what happens. Either people come in, they're super clear. They're like, I know this is what I want to talk about. I know I want to talk about my relationship or communication or getting a promotion. And other people are like, Annie, I don't know. I'm so overwhelmed. I just want to be happy. So my answer usually is, I just want you to be happy too. Let's get that clear. Also, what does happiness mean to you? Because it means something different to everyone. Is it spending time with your animals? Is it being able to afford a vacation for your grandchildren? Is it getting a promotion? Is it finding a significant other? What is your happiness? And then we have to set goals that are measurable, because we will never know if you're reaching it or towards happiness. Yeah. The other thing that we would do, even before getting to that, is identify values. Because if you're not living your values, then you will be unhappy.
Yeah, no, that is really good, because I had somebody that said to me once is, you can't really live the life you really want to until you get clear on the life that you really want to live. Yeah. And it's something like that. I may be quoting her wrong or whatever, but I think it's interesting, because the minute that I got clear, I just, I hit a milestone age this year. And I always have worked with a coach, for at least the last 20 years, it seems. Ooh. And what I realize is that I've changed a lot, and I've gotten clear on a lot of things. And I think that I honestly feel that everybody needs a coach. Everybody should have that person that can look at things objectively. Because, I honestly feel that, like, I have some really good friends, but I honestly feel that I don't even know if they would be able to help me with some of the things that I needed help with at that point, or help me get clear about what I really wanted. So I just looked. This is actually a fun exercise for those of you who are contemplating this. I'm actually contemplating retirement at some point. And so of course, I'm never really going to retire. I'm always going to be here, but getting clear about what that looks like, because I heard somebody, actually my husband was listening to somebody that said, hanging out at the beach, even though I love the beach, I could stay there all day. But hanging out at the beach isn't a retirement plan, so you have to have a plan. And, as a coach, you've probably heard it over, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, or something like that. Yes. And we all have to have a plan. And so we have to, in our mind, we have to know what that looks like. And so I kind of got excited about, even though I'm still a little off, I'm about 5-6 years off of retirement, but I'm contemplating doing it a couple years earlier. And I'm like thinking, it was like energizing to be able to talk this out and what it looked like. And not only did I do that, because remember, well, I mean, for those of you who don't know, I'm married and literally we're the same age. So we're probably going to retire right around the same time. So what is that going to look like for both of us? So me and my husband had a conversation about that. So when I went back to the session, I was very clear of what I wanted. It was really, really very helpful. And so you can't get that. Sometimes you could sit around and talk with your best friends, and that's energizing because we all have dreams and we laugh together and we do life together. But sometimes there's things that we don't talk about with our friends because, I mean, I just remember, I mean, I don't know if you went to school, you got an education. When I became, I'm not a coach now, but I became a certified life and business coach. I went through a certification. And I remember when I first started my business, my parents go, so when are you going to get a job? And I'm like, I don't have a job. I'm working on my own. I'm growing my business. And still now it's like, I have a digital marketing agency and my dad's like, so are you ever going to get a job? Because it's that,
right.
And that mindset. I always, so anyways, that's, I really, I love what you're doing because what you do, you serve and you help people. And, I think everybody needs someone like you in their corner. And, you have a lot of gifts, you talk about wellness and, time management. Oh my gosh, time management. We could talk on that. But, just because there's so many business owners and people starting out and everything, what is one piece of advice, and I also have people who are thinking that are listening to this right now that are thinking of owning their own business. What is one piece in your knowledge? What is one piece of advice you could give someone when it comes to owning your own business and having that? I'm going to add to this. I'm adding to this question and having that work-life balance.
So I guess it's kind of 3 steps. I know you just said one, but it's kind of 3 steps. Number 1 is the values. Okay. Number 1, values, which will lead you to number 2, prioritizing. And then after doing that, it's a skill called time blocking, which some people may be familiar with, but time blocking will change the game for your life. It will help with the stress because you know what you're going into, and it will help you identify if you are, it's measurable results, which coaching is a lot about measuring, because a lot of times, especially if we achieve things, we forget or we don't celebrate them. So a month can go by and we're like, we did nothing, but you went on 5 podcasts and then you went to 2 networking events. A friend, people are asking to hang out with you that make more money than you and are more successful. These are all wins. So, but because you time blocked, you were able to go to these networking events. You were able to make the podcast. You were able to put buffers so that meetings didn't bleed into each other. And then you were late. And now you have the reputation of being late. Have the reputation of always being on time, always being prepared.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I just recently had a lesson in that. I work from my own home and I'm pretty scheduled, pretty regimented and I do a lot of time blocking, but I really saw how time blocking really worked when last month I had to, I was watching my grandson and because my daughter had to go to work and she needed somebody until he got into this childcare that she was looking for. So I went down to South Carolina and I'm watching him and I realized that thankfully I had somebody working for me. So that was one good thing. But then I realized that my time, because I was watching this little 1-year-old that was running all over the place crazily. And, I'm like, I'm a grandma now. I'm like, exhausting. And so I had to literally, I had to block out time knowing that I had to have all my calls done before 8:30 in the morning, and then I had to schedule, which was really hard, by the way. I had to schedule some calls for after 5. And that was hard because I like to be done at 4. I'm done for the day. And then schedule something every day from 11:30 to 12:30 because he took a nap and he was good at naps. Sometimes I would get extra and I would try to use that time as extra. I was actually more productive. And I actually even wrote a blog post that was called Rent a Baby Boost Your Productivity. And it was like, it was great because, and I made this commercial up, and of course I don't, don't rent a baby, but don't, but it's
right.
When you have kids, I mean, parents know that. I was thinking about this. I didn't have my own business when my kids were small. My kids are all grown, and off doing their careers and stuff like now. And I realized that I don't know if I could have ran my own business if I had 4 kids running around being the Fairfield County taxi cab driver to all these events, crazy events, lacrosse and field hockey and basketball and
never ending. Yep.
And so what I realized is I always used to poo-poo the whole time blocking thing because, I'm kind of a free spirit, to do what I do, but I realized, and it's so funny, if my coach listens to this podcast, she's going to laugh at me because it's exactly what you said. Really, it's freedom. By having a schedule and time blocking, you're creating more freedom than, because if you're constantly trying to play catch up and everything, there's no freedom. I mean, before I hired somebody, let me tell you something, I was a crazy woman. So, but no, this has been really good. I apologize if I talk too much, but this is my wheelhouse. I'd love to talk about, confidence and mindset. And I want to just talk a little bit because we were talking about stress management earlier. A lot of people, have trouble with meditating and being still and being quiet, being mindful. And I've done some practicing of that, of trying to be mindful in different areas, being present in the moment. If you have a crazy ADHD crazy person, that's, all over, always going after the bright, shiny object and just going from one task to other, how do you help them become more mindful?
So actually, it's so funny because I was going to bring up ADHD clients because I have quite a few. Time blocking is very overwhelming for them. Even people without ADHD, this is very overwhelming. So what I tell them is our step 1 is not going to be planning the future. Our step 1 is reviewing your past. So you are going to time block what happened previously, and then you're going to color coordinate it. Work will be, I'm making up the colors, but work will be blue. Family time will be green, self-care will be pink, wasted time, and that means scrolling, binging something, that will be red. And now you're going to look, how much red do you have? You told me you don't have time to write a book, and I see 14 hours of red. And this is gentle call outs because I'm a coach and I'm not a therapist, so I will hold your hand, but I'm also going to gently call you out because literally that's what you're paying me for. We are not gal pals getting coffee. I love my clients. We laugh hysterically. We have so much fun. But I would be disrespectful to take money from someone and not coach them and not be the person that gently calls them out. So that's how I would help them build mindfulness around their time, is taking a step back and actually reviewing the past for a bit. And if I were to teach them about meditation, I tell all my clients this. A lot of times we spend meditation beating ourselves up. Well, there I go again. I'm not thinking, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be silent. And what I tell people, because it's so common, right? What I tell people is actually in those moments, you need to celebrate yourself. You did exactly what mindfulness was. You caught yourself. This is an accomplishment. So being excited for yourself as opposed to this shame and anger.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm laughing because recently I've been trying to meditate more and I've been doing horrible at it. The Apple Watch has one of these, it's like a 1-minute meditation. I was like, well, I can do 1 minute and stuff. But it was I was so busy. I remember talking to my coach, oh, I just can't even do meditation right.
Oh,
he just called me out on it. But what was really good is what I learned over the my past coaching sessions was that I start out I can do I have these lofty goals. I'm going to write 10 pages today in my book, but maybe just write a little bit, or maybe just meditate for a minute, maybe just start out, so you can have a win and little wins. And I think a lot of times we don't celebrate those little wins, and we don't have those little wins, or we don't acknowledge those little wins. And I think you had said that too, is like, well, hey, you were aware of it. You called yourself out, so really good. This is good stuff. I could talk for hours on this.
Oh.
So tell me, if somebody resonated with you today, they're probably, they would want to know how to get in touch with you, and maybe you can offer a little something. So just tell us what you are going to do and how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. So definitely go to my website. I do have social media under my first and last name. It's all the same, but going directly to my website is definitely more convenient.
Okay, perfect. And what was I going to say? Or like, if somebody really wants to maybe have like a test session with you, or do you have do I do what I could do is I could put your Calendly link in the podcast.
That's fantastic. Yep, it's 45 minutes. We will talk about goals. You will leave with action steps.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. This has been so much fun. And to everyone out there, have a really good week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram @BizGoneSocial for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.